Okay. Hi, everybody. It may not be the most glamorous topic tonight, but I wanted to talk about the Bracha of Aneinu that we say on fast days, but also how it has relevance to our understanding of adding personal petitions in the davening. There's actually an interesting balance that you discover when you read some of the sources. And of course, saying Aneinu is something that we do periodically. The next time we'll say Aneinu is on Tainus Esther, so it's coming up. The Shulchan Aruch says in Siman Taf Kuf Samech Vav, which is the laws of Tainus, the laws of fasting, the Tainus Tzibor, on a public fast day, Omer Shliach Tzibor Aneinu ben Goel L'Rofei. The Shliach Tzibor inserts a special bracha between the bracha of Goal Yisrael and Rifa'enu. And of course, we need to understand why it dafka goes there. And v'chosein Baruch Atah Hashem, ha'oneh la'amo Yisrael be'es tzara. Blessed are you, Hashem, who responds to the Jewish people at a time of travail. V'im shachach, and the Ramah just adds that if the Shliach Tzibor forgot to say that blessing, that's already been addressed earlier in Siman Kuf Yud Tes, which we'll see momentarily. The basis for saying the Bracha of Aneinu is found in the Gemara in Maseches Tainus. Now, I just want to clarify that this is not a fast that is instituted for a drought. Fasts that are instituted for a drought have a certain sort of like a separate category unto themselves. These are the Tainus Tzibors that we have, typically the 5 fasts that we do over the course of the year to commemorate the Churban. That's the Aneinu that we're talking about here. So, Tzalusa de Tanei Sahecha Mad Kerinan. So the Gemara in Maseches Tainus on the bottom of Yud Gimel Amud Beis, and continuing on the following Amud, asks the question, how do we make mention of the fact that it's a fast day in our Shemona Esrei? Ad Berei Rav Yehuda Rav Yitzchak Berei V'Dorash. So Rav Yehuda explained to Rav Yitzchak, his son, as follows. Yachid shekibel alav tainus mispalel shel tainus, that if an individual accepts upon himself a fast, and he should say a special prayer for fasting, behechan omra ben goel l'rofei, and where should he insert that special prayer? And as Rashi says, a special separate bracha, even as an individual who decides to fast for his own personal issues, he should fast between Goal Yisrael and Rifa'enu. So the Gemara asks the question, V'chi yachid kovea bracha la'atzmo? Since when is an individual permitted to insert his own blessing in Shemona Esrei? And as Rashi explains the Gemara's question, since when is an individual chashuv kolkach so important sheyihiyu mesaknin lo bracha b'fnei atzma lahosif b'tfilaso? That the rabbis would institute that whenever you're having a bad time, a rough patch in life, you get to add another bracha of Shemona Esrei for yourself. That seems uncharacteristic of the sages to leave it up to a person's own discretion to insert his own blessing in Shemona Esrei. And therefore, Ella Amar Rav Yitzchak b'shomea tefila, v'chein Amar Rav Sheshes b'shomea tefila. And therefore, these two rabbis conclude that if an individual is going to accept a fast upon himself, and he wants to say a special supplication, he should put that in the bracha of shomea tefila. And as Rashi says, shekolula b'tocha bracha, that you're not adding a new bracha, you're incorporating it into a pre-existing blessing, v'chotein b'shomea tefila, and you finish the bracha with blessed are you Hashem who hears prayer. De ota bracha v'chatimata mashma ben ata'anit ben akol mili. And the reason is because the whole theme of the bracha of shomea tefillah is a generic catch-all that God listens to our petitions and prayers. So this would be the appropriate place. You're not making your own blessing. You don't have a mandate to insert your own blessing. But this is where you would place it. Mai havi Allah, what's the upshot? There's actually a much larger sugya that continues on and on. But at the end of the sugya, the Gemara basically says that that's the halacha, that there's a machlokes, but the final upshot is the hilchasa b'shomea tefillah. that an individual inserts his own private petition in Shomea Tefillah. Now, going back to the Shulchan Aruch's assumption that the Shliach Tzibor, however, has a separate bracha because he's not davening as an individual, but he's davening for a communal fast day, he does have a separate bracha. He inserts that bracha between what and what? Between Go'al Yisrael and Refaim. Now, why is that? Anyone, you ever wonder why Dafka at that moment he's supposed to insert the Bracha of Aneinu? So the Beis Yosef says that the reason is, quoting the Sefer Orchos Chaim Uzarishon, Omer Aneinu ben Goel Dichsiv Hashem Tzuri v'Goali, because the pasuk in Tehillim says that God, you are my rock and my redeemer. The Samuch le Ya'ancha Hashem biyom tzara. And right after that is Psalm 20, which we say in the Lam, we say it every day. Ya'ancha Hashem biyom tzara, that God will afflict you on a time of travail. Or Ya'ancha could also mean that God will answer you at a time of travail. So therefore, right after Go'al Yisrael, you say Aneinu. You say, please answer us to conform to the structure of Sefer Tehillim. And the truth of the matter is that this was the understanding of Chazal, that when there is a special fast day that is instituted for a drought in Eretz Yisrael, the Gemara in Tainus, at least the first part, is dedicated to the protocols as far as how you institute consecutive fast days when the drought gets worse and worse and worse. And at some point, the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, that normally, even though Shmona Esrei is 18 blessings, when there's a fast for a drought that the rabbis institute, you're supposed to add 6 additional blessings in the Shmona Esrei. The Gemara doesn't detail to every letter and every word what those 6 brachas are. It gives us sketchy information about those brachos. But the Tur, in a special siman in Shulchan Aruch, siman Tav Kuf Ayin Tes, explains what the protocol for those 6 extra brachas are. Has anyone ever heard of us doing that today? No. Not even during times of drought do we do that. And the poskim write, as the Tur does and as the other later poskim write, without a Sanhedrin, in the absence of a Sanhedrin, we can no longer add 6 blessings. The most that we could ever add is our own, let's say, special prayer in an already existing bracha. So let's be clear. When the Gemara has already mandated a special bracha to be said on a consistent basis, on a day of a Tainus Tzibor, and that Tainus Tzibor is already fixed on the calendar, so then we have a separate bracha in the Shmona Esrei because we have been sort of vested with the authority of the rabbis of the times of the Talmud to say a separate bracha in Shmona Esrei. When the discretion is placed upon the rabbis of the generation to declare a fast and to declare extra prayers, there came a point in the medieval period where the rabbis basically said, no more. We don't feel confidence to declare that we're going to add brachas to the Shmona Esrei, and therefore the most that we will do is that we will add special supplications in the bracha of Shema Koleinu. So we have two issues that we have to deal with. One is the distinction between the tzibur and the yachid, which is when the tzibur has a blessing of that's for a fast, there's a separate bracha. When the yachid is davening his own private Shmona Esrei, he does not say a separate bracha, he puts it in Shema Koleinu. And that's what we do even today. We have the Aneinu that the Shliach Tzibor says, he has a separate bracha after Go'al Yisrael. And when the Yachid, the individual, says Aneinu, he waits until the afternoon to confirm that he's been fasting, and he says the bracha of Aneinu in Mincha. But where does he say it? Not as a separate bracha, but because he's a Yachid, he doesn't have the mandate to insert an additional blessing. He can only insert it in Shema Koleinu. That seems to be the way that we're coming out. But there's also a historical divide, not just between the Tzibor and the Yachid, but also in history, at some point, the rabbi said, in the absence of a Sanhedrin, we are no longer vested with the authority to add additional blessings whenever we institute a fast. So we may institute a fast, we may institute special prayers for the fast, but we do not have the authority anymore to add brachos to Shmona Esrei. And so therefore, even though the protocol is actually very clearly indicated in the Shulchan Aruch, it is not implemented as a matter of course. It's one of the questions that the Meforshim ask is, if it's not implemented, then what is it doing in the Shulchan Aruch? The Shulchan Aruch only discusses halacha l'maisa. We won't get into that. We won't go into that actually today. But what's relevant is that the Torah, in discussing those 6 blessings that are inserted for a fast day for a drought, lists all of the 6 blessings in Siman Tav Kuf Ayin Tes, and then he tells us something very interesting. He says as follows. Source number 4. Kol yom vayom mizayin ta'anios ha'achronos oshar ta'anios shemasrin bahem osin keseder hazeh. Any one of the 7 fast days for a drought that come at the end of the fasting period, because the Gemara says there's 3 and then another 3 fasts and then another 7 fasts. So those 7 fast days that come at a point of really desperation, because it's like Cape Town, right, in Eretz Yisrael, so then you're supposed to blow shofar and you're supposed to fast, and you do according to the following protocol. We're not going to go through all the blessings, but then he writes, V'yispalalu hayechidim shmona esrei brachos va'aneinu b'shomei tefillah, that the individual davens his own Shmona Esrei with only 18 blessings, not with the additional 6 blessings, and he adds Aneinu in Shomei Tefillah, not adding a separate bracha. V'yachzir shatz atfila avos ukvuros ukdusha ukdushas Hashem atachonein hashivenu slach lanu v'yomer kol aslichos v'haviduyin, and then you insert between Gaal and Rifa'enu the 6 additional blessings for the special fast day. So you see, this is where it's different. On a regular Tainus Tzibor, you only add 1 Bracha of Aneinu. On a fast day for this drought situation, with the mandate of the Sanhedrin, you add 6 blessings at that very same spot. And then you continue with Rifa'enu, and the Beis Yosef says that what that means is that you continue from Rifa'enu until Shomea Tefillah, and then you say, Ushma kolenu Hashem Elokeinu, v'kabel berachamim u'v'ratzonos tefilaseinu, u'milofanecha malkeinu rekom al tishivenu, which is the regular Shma kolenu, and then you add, Va'aneinu borei olam, etc., etc., etc. Now, where does this prayer printed? Aneinu borei olam, please give us rain, and so forth and so on. So for a few days, last couple of weeks, we had instructed the Shliach Tzibor to add this prayer of Va'aneinu borei olam v'midas harachamim. If you want to see it in its full text as it's printed in a siddur, you can look at source 16 from the Koran Siddur, which has, I've just photocopied it from the Koran Siddur. That's exactly what's added in the bracha of Shomei Tefillah. And that's basically a special text that is inserted. It's not Aneinu. It's a special text that was mandated from the times, we don't know exactly what the origin of this text is, but the Torah is the one who completely fleshes it out, and it has the theme of praying for rain. So what we do today is that since we do not have the authority to institute the Sheish Brachos, what we do have the authority to do is instruct the Shliach Tzibor to say this prayer out loud of Aneinu borei olam b'midas harachamim, and ask Hashem for extra rain. Now you notice that we do not say this bracha in V'sein Talu Matar. We only say it in Shomei Tefillah. Thank God, the drought seems to have been mostly over, so we've stopped saying that in the Shliach Tzibur Shmona Esrei. Okay, so far so good. Now I just want to point out something else. So it's a little bit curious that we insert this insertion for prayer for rain in Shema Kolenu, and we don't insert it in the prayer for rain of V'sein Talu Matar. Why is that? Why did we do that? So let's go a little bit further, and I hopefully we'll be able to put it all together. Shliach, in number 5, the Shulchan Aruch discusses the case that was touched upon by the Ramah in source number 1, which is what happens if the Shliach Tzibur forgets to say Aneinu. So the Shulchan Aruch writes, Shliach Tzibur shegomar goel Yisrael v'shachach v'lo amar Aneinu, lo yachzor afilu im adayin lo gomar rak rifa'enu. He says, once you've already said the bracha of Rifa'enu, which means even if you've just said, the poskim say, even if you've just said the words Baruch Atah Hashem, you are committed to continue, and you say Rofei Cholei Amo Yisrael, and you can no longer go back to the bracha of Aneinu. If you started Rifa'enu, and you haven't yet said Hashem's name in the bracha, so then we can chop you and have you say Aneinu. But there are times that it happens when everybody's sleeping for Chazaras Hashatz, and the Shliach Tzibur said Go'al Yisrael, and then jumped into Rifa'inu. Nobody caught it, and now it's too late. What are you supposed to do? How do you repair the problem? So the Shulchan Aruch says, V'im chazar bracha levatali. If you do go back after you said the bracha of Rofei Cholei Amo Yisrael, it's a bracha levatala. And rather, the Ramah says, Ela yomar Aneinu b'shomea tefillah ki achir. So this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to say the Aneinu in the Shomea Tefillah, just as if you were an individual who says Aneinu. You missed out on the specially ordained special blessing of Aneinu, but it's not a total loss. At least say Aneinu in Shomea Tefillah. Okay, so far so good? Okay. Another halacha that has applications of when else would the Shliach Tzibur say Aneinu in Shomea Tefillah? So the Shulchan Aruch writes as follows in the Siman Tav Kuf Samech Vav. Ein Shliach Tzibur omer Aneinu bracha b'fnei atzma, ela imkein yesh beveis hakneses asar shemit anin. You can only say the bracha of Aneinu as a separate bracha if there are at least 10 people who are fasting in that minyan. It's not enough that you have 10 people in the community who are fasting. They have to actually be present at that minyan. And he says, right? That's what I just spoke out. And says the Mishnah Berurah on that halacha, quoting the earlier poskim, but what do you do if you don't have a minyan and you're repeating Shmona Esrei? Let's say you have 9 people who are fasting because one guy's a diabetic and you only have a minyan. So the halacha is that the Shliach Tzibur does not say Aneinu separately, but he inserts it and says out loud in Shomea Tefillah. Because now it's an individual who's reciting, just like an individual who's reciting the Aneinu. The Mishnah Berurah also says, he says also in the next Sifkatan, I believe it's a later Sifkatan, he says, Hu hadin im lo hayu yud hamisan beveis hakneses. Let's say there were not 10. Uvo achar birkas Rifa'inu. And then the 10th man finally shows up after he's already done the bracha of Rifa'inu. So yomer b'shomea tefillah ki yachid. Then he should say the bracha, the blessing of Aneinu in the bracha of Shema Koleinu. V'im hischel hashatz lihispal b'kol ram v'hayu az b'veis hakneses yud shemisanim. Let's say the Shliach Tzibur began Chazaras Hashatz with 10 people fasting. And then, and the portion of them left before he had a chance to start Aneinu as a separate blessing, lo yomar Aneinu. He should not say Aneinu v'tov sheyomer az b'shomea tefillah. Okay, and then he should say it in Shomea tefillah. Okay, so this is all, it's all something that you might infer from logic, right? Once you have the general rule, if there's not a minyan of fasters, you can't say a separate bracha of Aneinu, you say it instead in Shomea Tefillah. So that's another example. Okay, here's another example. Let's say there's a drought. So we just said that when there's a drought, what are you supposed to do? Normally, when there's a drought, you're supposed to insert, when you have the mandate of the Sanhedrin, you're supposed to insert 6 special brachos in Shmona Esrei, plus that extra prayer of right, that we saw from the Koran Siddur, which is Aneinu Borei Olam B'midas Harachamim, asking for rain. And here the Shulchan Aruch brings an interesting sidebar, and it states as follows: Yechidim hatzrichim l'matar b'yamos hachama. Let's say you live in a part of the world which needs rain in the summer. Now, we don't normally pray for rain in the summer. So you would think that these people should add v'sein talumatar in the summer.
That's South Africa.
That's South Africa, or Australia, or South America. Ein shoalin oso b'birkas hashanim. So you're not allowed to insert a petition for rain in Bracha of Aneinu, ela b'shomea tefillah. But rather in Shomea Tefillah is the only place that you would be allowed to insert that petition. Va'afilu ir kidola kininve o eretz echas kula kemo Sfarad bichlala o Ashkenaz bichlala ki yechidim damu b'Shomea Tefillah. And even, says the Shulchan Aruch, if you have a huge city the size of Nineveh, which was the largest city of its time, or the entire country of Spain, or the entire country of Germany, and they need rain in the summer, so the halacha is that despite the fact that it could be millions of people, nonetheless, it's not Klal Yisrael, it's a localized area, and even though your community needs rain, you can only ask for rain in Shomea Tefillah, you cannot ask for rain in Bracha of Aneinu. Now, what is this based on? This is based on another Gemara, just a little bit later in Maseches Tainis. Sholchu le b'nei Ninveh l'Rebbe. Kagon anan da'afila b'tekufas Tammuz b'inen mitra hechi navid. They asked Rebbe the following shaila: we who live in Ninveh, and we need rain for the entire year. We need it not only in the winter, but we need it in the summer as well. What should we do in our prayers when we're davening? So, ki yechidim daminan o kerabim daminan. Are we like individuals, or are we like a tzibur? Ki yechidim daminan uv'shomea tefillah, o kerabim daminan uv'birkas hashanim. Do we have the status of individuals, and therefore the only place for our petition is like a private petition bracha, which is shomea tefillah? Or can we insert the bracha in Bracha of Aneinu, which is where the communal prayer for rain would normally go? So, sholach lahu ki yechidim damisu uv'shomea tefillah. So he said back to them that you have the status of individuals, and you would say the bracha in shomea tefillah. The Gemara then challenges that, and it says meisvei. Amar Rebbe Yehuda emasai bizman shehashanim kitiknan v'yisrol shunalad masan. Aval bizman hazeh hakol lefi hashanim, hakol lefi hamikomot, hakol lefi hazman. He says, it seems like that the only time that we go according to the patterns of rain in Eretz Yisrael is only when the Jewish people are living in Eretz Yisrael. But when we're in the diaspora, then every community can insert its own prayer according to its needs. So Amar Lei Masnisa Ramasalei de Rebbe Tanahu Upalik. So the Gemara says that's not a problem. Rebbe disagrees with that. Rebbe holds not that way. Rebbe holds that regardless of what the local conditions of your community are, you are dependent. You go after the conditions in Eretz Yisrael, and if in Eretz Yisrael rain is needed seasonally, you don't have a right to insert a petition for rain in the bracha of Bracha of Aneinu, which is the bracha for rain for the Jewish world, which is dependent on Eretz Yisrael. And rather, you only make a petition as a yachid in Shomea Tefillah. Mai havi Allah. And so what was the final upshot? So the Gemara says, V'hilchasa b'Shomea Tefillah. In Shomea Tefillah, once again, the V'hilchasa. There's a very lengthy taz over here, and I noticed that people are a little sleepy tonight. So I'm hesitant to go into the Taz in any great depth. But I just want to read a couple of lines from the Taz, and then maybe we'll drop it off in about midway. The Taz on this halacha in Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Kuf Yud Zayin, states as follows, that you say the blessing, if you're a community that needs rain in the summer, you insert special prayers in Shomea Tefillah. Nearly dahad b'tzibur mutar li hitpalel b'shomea tefillah hanu keshemitpalelin b'lachash. Avolo yomar oto hashatz b'kol ram afilu b'shomea tefila. The Taz gives us a huge, huge chiddush. The Taz says that which the Gemara stated, that when there's a local drought, like in Cape Town, that you can insert prayers in Shomea Tefillah, that's only individuals in their Shtila Shmona Esrei, in their silent Shmona Esrei. But the Shliach Tzibor has no right to publicly insert additional prayers for a localized drought. And how do we know this? Because he quotes the Gemara. He says the Gemara in Tainus that we just read in source number 10 said that Shalchu lei b'nei Ninveh l'Rebbe kegon anan da'afila b'tikufas tamas b'inan mitra hechi navid ki yechinim daminan o karabim daminan. So because the people wanted to know, do we have the status of a yachid when we have a localized drought, or do we have the status of a community? In which case we should say it in Bracha of Aneinu. And what did he answer to them? He says so that you have the status of yechidim. Aval b'milta achriti dahav liyachid v'lo l'tzibur ki hachad etikufas tamas lavzman she'elas tzibur hu b'shomeyad hu tefila hu demitkarle v'lo b'virchas hashonim ad kan l'shon Rashi. Quoting Rashi, he says that you can only treat yourselves as individuals who are praying for rain. And the way that the Taz interprets that line in the Gemara is Harei she'ein lanu koach lasos tfilas tzibur mizeh afilu eretz bichlala im yomar oto hashatz b'kol ram kishechozer tfilato yaseh mizeh tfilat tzibur v'chomer tfei miyachid ha'omer oto b'birchas hashanim bazeh ki pidu chachamim shel lasos tfilat tzibur mizeh rak bizmanam. And basically, what the Taz is arguing is that what Rebbe was telling them is the Tfilas Tzibor has to remain sacrosanct and cannot be tampered with if there is a local calamity. It can only be made into a Tfilas Tzibor if all of Klal Yisrael needs it, but if it's a local issue, even if there are millions of people in that locality, you cannot have a public prayer, you can only have a private prayer of, please answer us Hashem for our needs. Yes?
But that wouldn't apply to Eretz Yisrael, would it? I mean,
presumably not. And that, therefore, this would not be a stira to what we just saw previously, that in times of drought, because it's Eretz Yisrael, that represents the capital of the Jewish people, the rabbis would be able to tamper with, so to speak, even the rabbis of today could tamper with the public prayer of the Chazaras Hashatz, of the repetition, and insert the Bracha of Aneinu, Aneinu Borei Olam B'midas Haracham. Okay? That's the Shita of the Taz. The Chachma Shlomo, the Maharshal, disagrees, and he says, Yechidim in source number 12, he says, Yechidim hatzrichim l'mater, ein sholem osu b'birkas hashanim ela b'shomei tefila. He says, Ayin betaz mashakasav l'raya miloshen Rebbe sheheshiv ki Yechidim dami b'shomei tefila, because the Taz is picking up on the language of the Gemara, that Rebbe said you have to treat yourselves like individuals. So only in the individual Shmona Esrei, says the Taz. Uval karchach hakavana da'af b'shomei tefila havi ki Yechidim ayin sham. Va'ani omer, but I say differently, says the Chachma Shlomo. Af im nedayek kein yamuchach min hashasham lahefech. Shari siyam hashas mai havi alo masik sham b'shomei tefila v'lo siyam sham hach lishna teki yechidim damu b'shomei tefila. He says the final upshot of the Gemara is not that you insert the special petition for rain in shomei tefila ki yechidim like individuals, but the final upshot leaves out the words ki yechidim. And so says the Chachma Shlomo, the fact that the final upshot of the Gemara left out that extra word ki yechidim means that it might even be dissenting from Rebbe. Even if Rebbe was telling us that you have to only daven in your silent Shemona Esrei as yechidim, the Gemara's final psak is you can even say it as a community, as a tzibur. So we have a smachlokes between the Taz and the Chachma Shlomo as to when in Cape Town there's a drought, whether permission is granted to the Shliach Tzibur to say a special petition in Shomei Tefillah in the Chazaras Hashatz or not. Derek, I don't know what the policy is. Do you know what's going on? Are they davening?
I don't know.
Maybe you can find out for us if there's a public prayer that they add in the Chazaras Hashatz. Just noting a couple of interesting essays online that I found on this subject, because this is really something that has become quite relevant in recent years when we have the Torah community in Eretz Yisrael reacting to the patterns of rain in Eretz Yisrael, which is the capital. It's no longer an issue of being a localized problem, but it's now being, since Eretz Yisrael is the capital for the Jewish people and the diaspora are ancillary to that capital, so then there's certainly nothing wrong, it would seem, by adding a public prayer in Shomei Tefillah, even in the Shliach Tzibur's prayer. And that's why it is we do what we do. So Rav Avraham Sachabolsky, in this website that I noted, it says, he suggests that this is the difference of opinion between the Taz and the Chachma Shlomo, as far as how we understand what Chazaras Hashatz really is. Nitein lahavin sheyesod hamachlokas bein hataz levein hachachma shlomo hinei ba'hagdara shel tfilat shliach hatzibur. What is the Chazaras Hashatz? Like, what is the function of this prayer that he says out loud? L'das hataz shliach hatzibur hino shaliach shel kol Yisrael utfilato hinei tfilat kol Yisrael. V'lachein af shebemakom mesuyam zukukim likshamim ein ze ra'ui sheshliach hatzibur sham yazkir b'tfilato et tzorcheihem mishum shu shliach tzibur shel kol Yisrael. The Taz says something very which this Rav creates as a huge parameter. He says the Taz view of what Chazaras Hashatz is that everything that I as a shliach tzibur am saying has to fit for all of Klal Yisrael. So if I'm saying Refa'enu, yes, there are Jews all over the world that need a refuah. If I say, V'la malshinim al tihi tikva, yes, there are malshinim throughout the world that are plaguing the Jewish people. Ala tzadikim, daven for all tzadikim all around the world. Whatever I say has to be applicable to Jews all over the world, because that's gufa what the definition of a Chazaras Hashatz is, a universal prayer for Klal Yisrael. Not just for the people in this room, but a universal prayer for Klal Yisrael. And if I can't therefore insert anything that is non-universal in nature, that only pertains to my little shtetl. Comes along the Chachma Shlomo, he says, L'das ha-Chachma Shlomo, Tfilah shliach tzibur hu tfilat anshei mekomo, v'lachein kasher oto makom zakuk ligshamim, u'she'ilat ha-geshamim hinei tzorech harabim, ra'ui sheshliach ha-tzibur yomra b'chazarat hashatz. He says, the Chachma Shlomo disagrees. He says the function of a shliach tzibur's loud Shmona Esrei is to address the needs of this tzibur, not a universal needs of Klal Yisrael, but the needs of this community. And therefore, he has every right, in the Shomei Tefillah at least, to say an out loud prayer in Cape Town to pray for the needs of the Jewish people of Cape Town because of the drought. Before we get into Rav Soloveitchik's Torah, which I think is really Tzarech Ian Gadol, you therefore see now that this is the basis of the machlokus when there's a localized tzara, when there's a localized problem. Okay? We grant you that because it's localized, you can't go against, when there's a local drought, you can't now pray for rain in Bracha of Aneinu, since Bracha of Aneinu was instituted for the patterns of rain in Eretz Yisrael. But you can pray for it in Shema Koleinu. But the machlokus is it only for Yechidim to say, or is it for the Shliach Tzibur to say as well? Comes along the Mishnah Brura and is the arbiter between the machlokus, between the Taz and the Chachma Shlomo, in source number 15. After quoting the Taz, he says, Umin hagenu kehayom, she'omer hashatz b'shomei tefillah, aval eino omer v'tein talumat l'chud, Ki'im ba'pesukim u'sha'ar l'shanot u'kfar nitfas b'sidurim. He says, our minhag is to insert out loud in the Chazaras Hashatz special prayers in Shomei Tefillah, not just to say the words V'sein talu matar livracha, because that seems to be countermanding the bracha of Bracha of Aneinu, which is based on the patterns of Eretz Yisrael, but as it is printed in Sidurim, he's referring to the bracha of Aneinu borei olam b'midat harachamim. So according to the Mishnah Berurah, it's not only if there's a drought in Eretz Yisrael that the Shliach Tzibur has a right to say it out loud, but even if there's a drought in Cape Town, the Shliach Tzibur would have a right to say Shomet, this Ba'anenu Borei Olam B'midat HaRachamim out loud.
In Cape Town.
In Cape Town.
In Cape Town.
In Cape Town, right. Now, it doesn't seem like you could say that in a place which doesn't have a drought. That's a very good point. Which only makes me just scratch my head when I read this short little shtickle from Rav Yoshev Ber Soloveitchik Zatzal. I totally don't understand what he's talking about. If you go back to source number 14, what Rav Soloveitchik is addressing, this is just I found on the Bar Ilan CD, Rishimot Shiurim on Maseches Brachas. And if you remember, what did the Ramah say? The Ramah had said that if the Shliach Tzibor forgets Aneinu on a Tainus Tzibor, how does he make it up? He inserts it in Shomeya Tefillah. Inserts it in Shomeya Tefillah. So comes along so Rav Yashav Ber states as follows. He says, V'tzarch iyon b'psak HaRamah. He says, I don't understand the Ramah. The l'cha'ora rak yachid yachol lahosif bakashot b'shomei tefillah. He says, because when you think about it, only a private person in their private Shemona Esrei can make insertions in shomei tefillah. V'ilu shliach tzibur shemitpalel tefillat hatzibur eino yachol lahosif bakashot batefillah va'af bakashot shehem avur hatzibur. A shliach tzibur does not have permission to add petitions in the bracha of Shomei Tefillah. V'imkein hashatz eino yachol lahazkir Aneinu b'Shomei Tefillah. And therefore the Shliach Tzibur shouldn't be allowed to do that. That's his question on the Ramah. Now what is he basing himself on? He's basing himself upon the Taz. But this question doesn't make any sense to me, and I'll tell you why. If you go back to the Tur, in Siman Taf Kuf Ayin Test, which was source number 4, the Tur had said that even though nowadays we don't add the 6 special blessings for a drought, but what do we have the Shliach Tzibur do? The Shliach Tzibur in Shomei Tefillah adds Va'aneinu Borei Olam B'midat HaRachamim. So it's clear from the Rishonim, at least, that the Shliach Tzibur does have a right to make insertions in Shomei Tefillah. What is the Taz talking about? The Taz is saying only in a situation where the Eight Sarah is localized. When it's localized to one locale, the Taz was making the argument that the Shliach Tzibur cannot make insertions in Shomei Tefillah because that's not on behalf of Gans Klal Yisrael. But to say that if there's a tzara for all of Klal Yisrael, like a fast day, Aneinu b'yom tzara is for all of Klal Yisrael. Where do we ever see from this Taz that the Shliach Tzibur doesn't have a right to make that insertion? This is the problem that I have. I like this shtickle from Rav Yoshev Ber, where he leaves off with the tzarech iyun and the Ramah, is it tzarech iyun alav? I totally don't understand what his problem is with the Ramah. I'm just leaving that with you so that you can think about it. It's pashut, a mystery to me. And Hashem ya'ir Aneinu. May God illuminate our eyes, because, this makes absolutely no sense why he should have a tzarech iyun on the Ramah. Okay. I'll just add one last thing, just to make the shir complete, and then we'll let you out. Okay? Let's go to the last 3 sources. The Shulchan Aruch, okay, just as far as the Bracha of Aneinu, I wanted to also, at some point, I want to give a shir on Kriyas HaTorah on a fast day. We won't get to that today. Maybe there'll be a topic for another time. The Shulchan Aruch writes that we know that there's a halacha, im hasha'a dichuka. What does that mean, im hasha'a dichuka? If it's getting late, and we just got now our minyan for mincha, but it's like a minute before shkia. So what are we supposed to do? So we call it a heicher kedusha, right? That's a halacha psuka in Siman Reish Lamed Beis in Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch writes, Im hasha'a dechuka, yispalalu belachash, v'achar kach yomer shliach tzibur magein u'mechaye v'ya'ane kedusha u'mesayim hakel hakadosh, im ein shahud bayom ligmor yudchet brachot. So the shliach tzibur should do a heicher kedusha, do the first 3 blessings of Shemona Esrei out loud, say kedusha with the tzibur, everyone says amen, and the shliach tzibur commences his shtila Shemona Esrei, and the tzibur says their shtila Shemona Esrei. Good, we all know that halacha, right? We've done it plenty of times. By the way, it's not only, in my opinion, it's not only when there's limited time before shkia. We know that typically yeshivas do this, because based on the issue of you don't want to take away time from Torah study, which is so precious, we want to devote every waking moment that we can to Torah study. So therefore, we tell the Bachrim at Mincha, do the Heicher Kedusha Shemona Esrei. That's standard fare in most yeshivas today, or many yeshivas today. And then it's interesting, so they do a quick Mincha, and then they take a 2-hour break for lunch and to play basketball. But anyway, that's a separate issue, but the truth is that I agree with it nonetheless, because they need the 2 hours. They need the 2 hours. They need a half an hour for lunch and an hour and a half for basketball and sleep, because without it, they won't be able to learn Torah. And so those extra 3 or 4 minutes for mincha, I think that's correct, even with the basketball and the lunch. The kollel here, for example, every moment is precious, so they'll daven the 1 o'clock mincha, heicher kedusha, the same policy as that they would do in Lakewood, in Ner Yisrael, and all of the yeshivas. But here's the, I believe also, by the way, very strongly, that if you're at a chasen's tish and it's very noisy, you should also do a heicher kedusha, because it's a bizayon to the chazaras hashatz that no one's answering on me. I also feel that way. But maybe we'll have a separate shir for that. But here's where the question becomes relevant for the Aneinu. When does the shliach tzibur say Aneinu? At mincha on the fast day. What if it's mamish holding right before shkia, and there's no time to say a full Shemona Esrei chazaras hashatz, and all that there's time for is to say a heicher kedusha? What do you do with the Aneinu? What do you do with the Aneinu? You lost the Aneinu. Pashtus is you lost the Aneinu. So come take a look at the Magen Avram. The Magen Avram says, "Umikol makom b'tainis tzibur lo yasu kein lechatchila." Lechatchila, you should never do this. Do the heicher kedusha Shemona Esrei. Kevin shomar shatz Aneinu bracha b'fnei atzma v'hakol amrim kedarkam leka yud detzaisi l'shatz. He says, because since the shliach tzibur is going to say Aneinu in a separate bracha, and everyone else during that time is davening Shemona Esrei to themselves. Now, the Magen Avram is talking about a scenario where the minhag was that the shliach tzibur didn't just say the first 3 brachos, but he said the entire Shemona Esrei out loud, and the tzibur said it with him. But his feeling is that since the kahal is saying the Shemona Esrei to themselves, you're not going to have a minyan listening to the bracha. Umikol makom im hasha'ad dechuka ma'od yitpalel miyad b'kol ram v'yomar hashatz Aneinu v'akal yomru b'shomei tefillah. He says, if, however, it's very, very late, and there's really very little time, the shliach tzibur can say at least the portions of Shemona Esrei through Aneinu, and then I guess he can finish the rest silently, and then the kahal can say it themselves in Shomei Tefillah. Now, we don't do that anymore today, and that's why the Mishnah Berurah did not bring this Magen Avram. So he quotes the Ral Chaviv, and the Bir Halacha states as follows. He says, Ayin Magen Avram ma shehevi b'shim haralbach de b'tainis sibur lo yasu kain, the kevin shomer hashatz Aneinu bracha b'fnei atzma v'hakal omrim kedarkan b'lachash halo leka yud detzaisi l'shatz ayin sham. He says, V'lo he'etaktiv b'Mishnah Berurah. I didn't cite this Magen Avram in the Mishnah Berurah. The nira lanias daiti pasha lefi mashe noagin kayom shashatz in omer b'kol rak ad achar bracha gimel kedei lotzinu dei chovas b'kedusha. He says, because today our minhag is l'shliach tzibur would never say anything out loud past kedusha. So that's not practical to advocate like the Magen Avram is advocating. Let him say more brachas out loud until he gets through Aneinu. Bevadai ein tzarich hashatz lomer birchas Aneinu rak b'shomei tefillah kishar yechidim. The zelo nikra chazaras hashatz. He says, therefore, the shliach tzibur would for sure not say a private, separate bracha of Aneinu, but he too would insert it in Shomei Tefillah, just like any other Yachid who's saying Aneinu. והרלב"ח מרי לפי מה שהיו נוהגים בזמנו, שהשץ היה אומר כל הי"ח בקול רם, והעין לאל בסימן קכ"ד. He says the Ralbach is talking, which the Magen Avraham is citing, is when the Shliach Tzibur said up to all of the 18 brachas out loud. And that's why he said that you shouldn't say the Aneinu because you don't have 10 people listening. We have another reason why you don't say Aneinu, is because you're not going to be getting to that point out loud in the Shemona Esrei, and therefore it's pasha that you're going to say it like a private person in Shemei Tefillah. So, therefore, even those yeshivas who normally say a Heicher Kedusha, on a fast day, they have a full Chazara Sashat so that we can all get the benefit of the bracha of Aneinu. All right, Ad Kan. Any questions? Comments? Anything? Yes?
So why in Chutz La'aretz would we also say Ten Tal on the 4th of December if we don't need the... Let's say there's a country that never ever has rain at that particular time. Isn't it the same kind of question? So
Chazal instituted the bracha of V'sein Talu Matar for the Middle East, and they said that you begin V'sein Talu Matar if you live in Eretz Yisrael at the 3rd of Cheshvan or the 7th of Cheshvan, depending on there's different shitas. I think they started practically on the 7th of Cheshvan, and if you're in Bavel, you begin it 60 days after the equinox, after the equinox of the fall, which turns out 4th or 5th of December. Okay, so we don't have the right to change the patterns that Chazal instituted for either Eretz Yisrael or Bavel. We therefore have to remain consistent and not tamper with that bracha of Barech Aleinu, even if we need rain in our locale at a different time.
it seems to me it's the same kind of concept, because like if we need rain for our time, you think we would be allowed to, because we need rain when we need it.
Correct.
It's the same kind of concept.
Correct.
So we can't change it now.
Right. So again, so you see this certain sort of tension between not tampering with the matbeya shel bracha, the normal standard format of blessings that Chazal instituted, but also acknowledging the need to insert our own prayers. So the only thing that we left off as a machlokes is whether when there's a drought in Eretz Yisrael, it seems like everyone would agree that we should insert a special tefillah and Shema Koleinu, even in Chutz La'aretz, where we don't need rain, let's say, in Canada. However, the machlokas will be, what about Cape Town? So Cape Town is having a drought now. If, let's say, the drought continues into the summer months, which in likelihood it will, so then, there too, there's a machlokas, but the Taz would say that you should stop saying any prayer for rain. Even the Shliach Tzibur cannot say it in the Shomei Tefillah. And the Chacham Shlomo and the Mishnah Berurah it seems that's the accepted custom, that they would continue saying a loud prayer for the Tzibur to put an end to the drought. Okay?